What possessed a 17-year-old boy to brutally murder his mum in 2014? Join us today as we look into the case of Kevin Davis.
Graphic content warning.
This is a very graphic case involving brutal murder, violation of a court, and bestiality.
This means anyone with a nervous disposition, with an unsettled stomach. Thank you for coming. If you want to move along, we'll catch you on the next one. Anyone who sticks around, get your doggy bags, because this is a messy one.
Today, we're going to be looking at the case of Kevin Davis. Kevin was born on the 27th of December, 1995. Kevin grew up in Corpus Christi, Texas. He lived with his single mother, Kimberly Hill, but he also had a sister, Desiree. Kimberly raised Kevin by herself. She was absolutely devoted to him. She did everything for him. She was a really kind and caring lady who also worked in care homes, hospitals, and with the elderly. Kimberly was a salt of the earth type of woman who would do anything for anyone. Kevin was diagnosed with a mental health disorder known as ASPD, or antisocial personality disorder. Traits of this can include anger, irritability, risk-taking, impulsiveness, a boredom with day-to-day routine, a lack of remorse, arrogance, lying, and being deceitful. It is said that psychopaths can have these traits. Kevin grew up claiming that he hated people. He often would tell his mum that he hated life and he hated living. He was cold, he wanted to die, and he frequently fantasized about murdering family members.
Newsflash. Kevin hates people. Guess what?
People hate you, Kevin.
The tragic day we are talking about is March the 26th, 2014. On this day, Kevin approaches his mum and asks for permission to die. Kimberly refused this request and managed to defuse the situation, but decided that Kevin would have to go and stay with his sister for a while. She told Kevin that he was an adult now and that he needed to address these thoughts that he was having. Kevin snapped. He approached Kimberly, who was then sat on a sofa from behind, and attempted to strangle her with his Xbox cord.
The reason there's Bluetooth controllers nowadays is so people like Kevin can't strangle their mothers.
This didn't go to plan. So while she was dazed and confused, dealing with the fact that her son had attempted to strangle her,
Word on the street is Kevin's favourite band is the Stranglers.
Kevin struck her 20 times with a hammer. This didn't kill her, but it did fracture her skull. Kevin, realizing that his mother wasn't dead, pushed his fingers through the fractures in the skull, finishing her off by squeezing and playing with her brain. He then proceeded to drag her from the living room into the master bedroom, where he undressed her from the waist down and started to sexually abuse his dead mother.
No, no, no!
Afterwards, Kevin left the body in a suggestive pose.
Kevin, behave.
He left a note saying, "Chase me and sorry for the mess," and signed it, his initials, KD.
Kevin claims to love his mother. Guess you could call him a mother.
His plan was to wait for his sister, who was on her way to pick him up, as he planned on doing the same to her. But as he was waiting, he changed his mind because, in his words, he had had his fill. His plan B was to get a bicycle and a backpack and leave town. He rode some way, but decided against this, and abandoned both his bike and his backpack in some bushes nearby. At this point, Kevin was in a nearby town called Robstown. Here, he approached a couple and confessed to them that he was a murderer, and politely asked them if he could use the phone to call the police. He was subsequently arrested. Kevin Davis's interview is quite unique in the fact that he tells everything in a cold, calm, honest manner, answering any questions that the detectives has for him He goes through the day's event in graphic detail, starting with, "I'm a pervert and I deserve 100 years. He is heard saying that he believes he is not ill, he is completely sane, and he knows right from wrong. He continues saying he doesn't have standards or morals. A body is a body, it's a piece of meat.
If I ever seen this sick individual walking down the street, I'll tell you exactly what I'd do. I'll ring a taxi and run the f***ing other way. This guy's on a whole nother frequency. He's on Radio Lunatic."
Things get even more chilling. When Kevin was asked by investigators what would his perfect date be, his response was, "I would put on a nice suit, I would break into their house, I would disable the boyfriend, I would put the woman in a nice dress before I killed her. He would decapitate her, stitch her head back on, and then go to town on her." He comments that it would be a night to remember.
Kevin's perfect date is pulling up in an Aston Martin, putting on a nice sharp suit so he's looking all fresh like James Bond, doing the old martini shaker not stirred. I ain't even gonna make no jokes about gold fingers, odd job, or pussy galore. This ain't the time and this ain't the place.
Asked if he had killed before, he replied that he had one time. He had drowned the family cat, cut it up and penetrated it.
Most geezers like a bit of but Kevin takes the biscuit.
Kevin was initially charged with first-degree murder. However, in June of the same year, he changed his plea from guilty to not guilty. This meant he was going to go to trial, and a jury was going to have to endure his story. It was almost like he got some gratification. He got a kick out of how horrified people were listening to him. Kevin's defense team got some doctors to try and reduce his sentence based on his personality disorder. However, these doctors also said that Kevin knew the difference between right and wrong. As we know, there are plenty of people with ASPD who live relatively normal lives and don't become potential serial killers. So this defense didn't work. In October 2014, Kevin once again changed his plea back to guilty, which to me this shows that Kevin enjoyed prolonging the experience of putting people through this horrific story. Because of the in-depth taped confession the day he got arrested, it took jurors less than 1 hour to decide on a guilty verdict. This is particularly rare in any murder case, which goes to show the length of the damning evidence that they had against Kevin. James Lawrence, who was Kevin's attorney, said that they were offered a deal by the district attorney of 60 years. Kevin rejected this. Kevin got given a life term and is eligible for parole in 2044. I would like to make it clear that just because he's eligible for parole does not mean he will be released. Kevin's family members faced him in court, and his sister Desiree said to him, "You took the only person who had your back, and now you're all alone." The paternal grandfather, Clyde Hill, said, "I don't quite know what to say to you. You killed your mother and you just don't do that." And as parting words to Kevin, he said, "We will never see you again." Kevin and his mum lived on the ground floor of an apartment block. The neighbours that lived above him were shocked when they found out the news, saying that they'd never heard anything on that fateful day. At present, Kevin is currently behind bars at the Jester 4 facility in Richmond, Texas. Very little is known about how Kevin is doing whilst in prison. The only thing we're sure of is his family have wiped their hands of him. Kevin, in his own words, stated that the only people who should fear him are women. If released, he would definitely kill again. So to sum up, the act of parricide, killing one or both of your parents, is an act so horrific, it's just unthinkable. Kevin also said that his mother didn't do anything to deserve this. He claimed he loved his mother. Are they capable of love? Chaos, what do you think?
People, this is one of the most messed up, disturbing, He knew right from wrong. It didn't matter. Even in death, you're not safe from Kevin Davis. I mean, to say he's crazy is an understatement. You got crazy, then you got Kevin Davis. Not Steve Davis, the snooker player, he's alright. This is Kevin Davis. To quote the guy, one time I had a cat. I drowned it, cut it open, and
Chaos, you can't say that.
and if I'm allowed on the air next week, see you then. His second favourite band is I've Got Cat. It's dead mother.